What can Bobby Brown, yes, that Bobby Brown, teach us about Stoicism? It is our prerogative, after all. Welcome to 52 Weeks of Stoicism, courtesy of a Handbook for New Stoics. We are Painted Porch Strategies. We are here to guide you on a Stoic journey. My name is Rob Hunter. This is Amy.
Hi.
Amy Yak, we like to call her. And that over there is Sierra. She is our Chief Joy Officer. Amy, what is your title?
I have many. I gave myself many titles. That's what happens when you're the founder.
Yep.
I'm the Chief Evolution Officer and Mission Navigator.
Yes. Those are good. I'm the MC, the Master of Communication. So what we do at Painted Porch Strategies is we gather around the porch like the ancient Stoics did, and we discuss ideas, topics, and how it relates to you. We want to bring out the best in you and the best in your company with the tools that we have, some of which are based in Stoicism. Some of them are different spins on them. That's why we sit down every week and we have this discussion. So, ladies, this week, the reason I brought up Bobby Brown is because there is a massive, massive quote from our boy, Marcus Aurelius. See this in the blue here? That is the Marcus Aurelius quote they had us read. Those are all my notes because I had to read this like 4 times to understand it because that was the level of thinking Marcus Aurelius was on. But it really talks about retreating to your inner citadel. And what that means is your mind, your soul. You have to be able to have a space, no matter where it is, when it is, that you can retreat from the world and you can just kind of focus on you. So Sierra, I'd love to start with you. What are the main takeaways that you had on week 42, retreat to your inner citadel?
Oh, well, this Stoic principle of your inner citadel ties in so beautifully with many existing mindfulness practices that I was already familiar with. But essentially, the thing that kept coming to mind is very simple. No matter where you go, there you are. And the one thing that is always with you is yourself. So you are your constant. For my family and I, we travel a lot. So no matter where we go, we always, we have ourselves, we have our thoughts, and we have to remind ourselves that the peace begins within. So the peace begins in that citadel. And it's like the simplest concept that is incredibly hard to do and incredibly hard to maintain in this crazy world that we live in. But the Stoics really, they want us to think about our internal as a respite. You could think of this as a respite. You could think about it as a sanctuary. The body is the temple, so that when you need peace, all you have to do is look inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a wonderful concept that is, I think, for many people, myself included, is
elusive.
It's an elusive mistress. It's tough. It's definitely can be difficult to capture. They even say right up front, and I think it's even included in the quote here, that so often people think they need to get away. They need to go to a retreat. They need a vacation so that way they can reset. But the reality is, to your exact point, Sierra, the best, the one that's always available, that's free, and that ultimately is going to be what is truly going to help you reset and recharge is your inner citadel. Where the tricky part happens is whether or not your inner citadel, AKA your internal communication, Rob, that you talk about a lot in your Master Your Message program, whether that inner citadel is littered with trash or if it's a place that is truly a retreat for you where you can reset, recharge, replenish, reinvigorate.
But there's only one way to do that, is actually to do it. To actually retreat in your inner citadel.
You got to clean up the trash.
Well, and you got to find the trash first. And
yes.
Then you have to say, okay, I'm going to pick the trash up and let it go. Because the whole idea of what Marcus Aurelius is talking about is that this respite for your soul is where you have solutions. So let's say people drive you crazy. You have mad frustrations. People at work drive you nuts. You go to your home, your inner citadel, and you're like, okay, the trash is the frustrations. So, all right, let's pick up the trash and say, what are the solutions? I'm going to bend down and pick up the piece of paper and put it in the waste bin. Now, metaphorically speaking, how do you deal with frustrations? So And the example that they use here is that maybe you remind yourself of the dichotomy of control, one of the major Stoic lessons we've talked a ton about if you've watched all of our videos, because that's like the basis of all. What can I control and what can't I? You can control if you're frustrated or not, but you can't control how other people are. So that's why the prerogative quote, and why I brought in Bobby Brown, because it really is based on your prerogative, what you want to do and what you don't want to do.
It's the way that I want to live.
That's exactly right. That's why Bobby Brown is in here, because what he points out, he even says the word prerogative in this. It says, or is it a bodily troubles that assail you, right? So if you have pain, we talked about pain. Was it last week or the week before?
Mhm. Yep.
Last week.
How does your mind deal with that? And then it says, you have but to realize that when once the understanding is secure of itself, I know this is how they wrote back in the day, and conscious of its own prerogative, it has no more part in the motions of the soul, or the nema, as they write in here. So the point is, you get to control how you feel and how you think about things. And if you can, to use Amy's example, clean up the trash when you're in your inner citadel, which most of us avoid. Like I spent most of my life avoiding that. Now I love it. That was one of my lessons in COVID, is that I can do this anywhere, anytime that I want. I can do it at work if I want. I can do it at the kitchen table if I want. I can do it sitting on this couch right now.
Or while in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
For Sierra, she's posted a video you can find on Painted Porch Strategies YouTube, which maybe you're already on, or on our Facebook page, about creating a gratitude habit around making coffee, something that she loves to do. I'd encourage you to go check out that video. Is it like 4 or 5 minutes long?
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. That could be that moment of inner citadel that you do every single day for 5, 7, 10, 12, 15 minutes. It's going to change your whole life if you pick up the trash.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately, what this lesson is saying is, okay, so we all have trash, right? We all have trash in our brains. We're humans. It's nature. Even the Stoics, even the big dudes and a couple gals, even they constantly struggled with this. And that's ultimately what it's saying. So there are moments where the trash is going to pile up, and how can you remind yourself and spot when and how to clean up the trash? And that's ultimately what we're looking at here, is having some, they say, kind of at hand strategies, or they use the term maxims, which is like just a quick little phrase, if you will, a reminder to yourself. So that way, when you are attempting to retreat to your inner citadel and it looks like a fairly untidy space, what are some things that you can do to remind yourself to help tidy it up, but also to prevent new trash piling up in there? And so,
how often you have to retreat into your space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. It's interesting because in the IT world, we always have a phrase which is not exclusive to IT, but often you have to slow down to speed up. And it sounds counterintuitive, especially in this, technology where you have to ship, move fast and break things, right? As Facebook used to say, which they're having to clean up a lot of trash by doing that. But sometimes, there's finding that balance of slowing down just enough so that way you can tidy up your citadel, tidy up the way you approach your day, approach your life, approach your work, approach your family. So that way, over time, you're not having to navigate around all of these piles that are building up.
Right? Well, because you'll end up like WALL-E. I don't know if you've seen the movie WALL-E, where the earth is basically destroyed because of trash. That can happen to your mind. You can have trash piles so high that you'll just avoid it, and you'll just go start building another pile. And then all of a sudden you look and it's a landscape of litter in your mind. That's kind of what you want to avoid. And that's what retreating in your inner citadel is. And even if you haven't done it yet, start now and even if it's one piece of trash, let's find a solution to that. And that's kind of one of the exercises they have us do in this week 42 lesson. So I'll give one of the examples they do. And then Sierra, I would love to hear one that you came up with. So one of the things they give you is 3 categories: troubling situations, then the Stoic maxim you find comforting. This is how you deal with the trash, so to speak, and then the implementation intention. So, for example, an event I dislike, they use, either providence or atoms. Either way, it's foolish to chafe at this. And what they're saying is everything's temporary. Every frustration, illness, bodily pain, everything is temporary, either in the context of your life or the context of Earth's life or the universe life. So the farther out you want to look at that, the smaller that inconvenience will be, the event you dislike. So if you have to go somewhere for 2 hours, you want to be there. If you think about it in the grand scheme of things, okay, this 2 hours of my life, if I get to live to be 60, is a relatively small portion. If you get to be 100, even less. And then if you think about the Earth's been around for millions of years, this 2 hours in terms of the Earth is really, really tiny.
Mm-hmm. So it's just weighing it. It's kind of like an if this, then that. If I encounter an event that I don't like, then I'm going to remind myself of this particular Stoic principle or lesson. Not all of them, because this is a whole book and then some of different Stoic lessons. But what are a couple that you can have at hand based on the things that maybe that create the most trash in your mind?
Yes.
You know?
So Sierra, what'd you come up with?
So I loved, they were talking about the Stoic concept of pneuma. Is that how it's pronounced? Pneuma, which is literally means breath. And which is makes you like every other living thing in the cosmos. And it's true because we're literally made of stardust. It's just such a romantic, we're literally made of stardust. Since the molecules that make up our bodies were forged in the heat of a supernova explosion. Mm-hmm. So for me, reading this does two things. First of all, it backs me way out of like my problem, right? Zoom out, wide angle shot. But also, this helps remind me of the Stoic principle that humans are made to help one another and work together. And I bring this maxim to my mind a lot in a lot of different situations, whether it be frustrations with other humans or distractions by other humans or what have you, is that when I remind myself that we are all literally made from the same stuff, it allows my heart to be much more compassionate because I am literally talking to someone or dealing with someone who is made of the same stuff as me. If you cut me, do I not bleed, etc. So that I know that might sound really simple, but that brings me a lot of comfort.
Well, and sometimes it's the most simple ones that can be the most powerful. And that's ultimately what they're trying to have us do here, is identify some quick at hand reminders, but tie them to specific or general situations that tend to, get us a little worked up. And so that's what I loved about this exercise, is rather than just learning about the concept and thinking about ways you can apply it, it's literally tethering it together. So when I encounter this, or when I feel this, or when this happens, here is what I'm going to remind myself of, and here's how I'm going to remind myself of it.
So what'd you write down?
So what I wrote was, mine is, if you've been watching any of these, mine is always frustration. But what I specifically pointed out was frustration over others' output or my expected behavior from them, but then also frustration with myself and maybe not getting done everything that I want to in the time frame that I've allowed. And for both of them, I actually identified the same maxim, and it's true both for others as well as for myself. And that's the one that people are doing the best they can with what they currently know or have. Nice. And that's true both for what I expect of other people, but also how I respect myself and how I talk to myself. Yet also not viewing it as letting myself off the hook per se, but also using that as an opportunity to then further say, okay, but where could I have made a shift? Where could I have managed my time a little bit better? So, what happened already happened, to use yours. It couldn't have happened any other way. It's already happened. It's in the past. What I tried to get done, I didn't get done. Now I'm looking at it in a retrospective. But are there opportunities for me to say, but how could I improve, or how could I avoid this or make this better the next time? And, same thing with others as well. They did what they did because they knew what they knew and they had what they had at that time. Is there some way that I can give them? Is there a resource that I can share with them? Is there help that I can provide that can help maybe move them more towards this ideal version of their behavior or output that I would like? Like, how can I help them move forward?
You still can't control it, right?
No.
So you can give them tools, but they might not use the tools. They might be like, what's this screwdriver? I don't want to use this.
Correct.
So you have to be able to let that go too.
Yep.
Here are the tools, but even if they don't use them, you can't control that, because ultimately it's up to us how we want to advance and how we want to get better. And that's the point of this lesson, is the best way that Marcus Aurelius found to do that is the inner citadel, is that retreating into one's own mind. And really, you get to determine who you want to be in those moments, right? You get to determine how you want to live. What character traits do you strive for? Not always meet, because we're all humans after all, like Sierra said. I did it in terms of politics because I'm a talk show host in Phoenix as my day job. So politics by nature creates division. It creates winners and losers. So I remind myself to approach it from a collaborative point, to go back to Sierra's point as well, not quite to the extent where we're all made of the same thing, but I looked at it as, to quote Seneca, I don't remember the exact quote, it's like everything comes down to opinion, something along those lines. And I just remind myself it's just an opinion, whether it's mine, someone else's on the same political spectrum that I'm on, or the opposite. I mean, ultimately, we're on a mission together. We're on this earth together at the same time. At some point, we're going to have to realize, we're probably better off collaborating, because we got some big problems we got to solve. So let's do that together. So, and the other part too, in the politics is, this is all going to pass, whether it's, Joe Biden's administration or Donald Trump's or whoever comes next. It's 4 or 8 years. That's it. Then we move on. In the grand scheme of things, what is that really worth, as far as how much frustration, anger outside of your control you're putting? It's a lot of wasted energy in so many ways.
Right. As we like to say, be the leash, not the dog.
Yes.
Be the master, not the puppet.
Exactly right. Which is why I wrote, at the very end of each lesson, they have you ask whether or not this was worth doing. Did you get something out of this exercise? I said, the Citadel is the most amazing place, but it's one I used to run from. Now I run towards. I schedule time for myself now.
So was there one thing, and this is kind of throwing this at you, Rob, but what for people who are struggling with retreating to their citadel or being comfortable in their citadel, obviously we're talking about ways to pick up the trash and ways to avoid new trash coming in, but there is that period in between where there's still trash, right? So how is there something that you specifically leveraged to help you not run from your citadel?
Well,
I know it's a big question.
It was kind of forced because of COVID, right? My normal activities would be, all right, let's go hang out with friends outside in this place or that place, or let's have a large group gathering. But that was not, number one, not allowed for a period of time. And number two, a lot of people were a little shy about doing that, unsure about what was going out there. So it was just something that, okay, I have to figure out how to sit here on a Saturday and entertain myself, if you will. That was step number one. So if you're not forced to do it, make yourself do it. So force yourself to do it. So clear out a Saturday for 4 hours, 2 hours. Start somewhere, start small, start with an hour.
And do what?
Nothing.
Oh.
Do nothing.
Okay.
And then you can transition into doing, creative activities, which is what I started to do, because that's where I really think I found a nice balance is, that was when I was working on my program, Master Your Message, which is a communication program designed to help how you talk to yourself and how you talk to others, because your communication is your billboard to the outside world. And it was in those citadel moments that my best work came out, because I was away from the world and I was not dealing with other people, if you will, because that takes energy. I was putting the energy on myself. So that's what I would say. Take some energy and focus on yourself. And whether that's to be creative or just to deal with picking up the trash. And I would start with one item.
Yeah.
If it is, for me, I have a huge issue with traffic that I've been working on for like a couple of years. So I sometimes sit when I'm driving, I do it a lot. I'm like, okay, that person cut me off. I run through my Stoic lessons. I can't control what they do. There's no accident. I'm okay. And I don't know what's going on in their life. So I can't presume to know. Maybe they had a bad day. Maybe they got fired from their job. You run through all those scenarios and it helps you calm down. So and that's the other part, I guess. Find a citadel wherever you can. If it is in the car, if that's the only time you got, but that's a good place to start.
I see, Rob, that you actually, instead of running from it, I see that you're embracing it. You started posting more videos where you're actually in your car. The car's not moving, but you're in your car and you're talking about things that you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. So you're, as the Buddhists would say, you're like repairing your karma with feeling frustration in your car, is that you are bringing the peace into the car and you're helping to change the way that you flip the script, the way that you feel about being in the car with frustrations that you have with driving. And actually that would be my advice. For years with teaching yoga and teaching meditation, I have had many students say to me, they've said, I don't like that quiet part at the end of class because I don't really like being alone with my own thoughts. Mm. And I think for a lot of people, they kind of don't like to go there. So we create all these different distractions so we're not alone with our own thoughts. But what I would say is start with something that you feel really good about. Start with something that you love. And when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, is first pay yourself a really great, honest compliment. What do you really like about yourself? Start there and get comfortable, like being with yourself. Start with what you like. Like writers say, like, write what you know. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about writing what you don't know, just write what you know. So go with what you like. And then let that kind of build up from there. And then over time, you'll get more comfortable seeing the trash piles in the corner, and you can work on that. But maybe first look at the good parts, look at the peaceful parts of the citadel and get really comfy there and be like, okay, yeah, I can be in this citadel. I can be alone in my thoughts. I can be still without distraction and work through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's some great advice. Both of those are great advice.
You gonna add a cherry on top?
I don't know if it's necessarily a cherry. I was just going to say, when we think about these maxims, which is what this lesson is really asking us to do, and creating a couple reminders of ourselves of things that bother us in our externals, outside of ourselves, people's behaviors, maybe just pick one maxim for something that, constantly grates on you. And start.
Define maxim.
A max, like people are doing the best they can with what they know and what they have.
So it's like a Stoic belief.
Yeah, it's just a little
philosophy.
A little reminder, a little nugget. Start with that. Make it like a little. I'm not going to say mantra. It's a maxim. It's a reminder of a concept. So start with something like that, and maybe when it comes to the trash, you said start with one piece of trash. So if there's something that's a very repetitive theme when you are trying to retreat to your citadel, like to your point at the end of a yoga class, when you are closing your eyes or you're closing your mind and you're just listening, is there a message that seems to be pretty prevalent that's circling around in that brain? That there's a big pile of trash in there. Start by taking that concept, that maxim, for my example, they're doing the best they can with what they currently have and know. And just repeat that for each thing that's popping up and see how that allows you to then take that piece of trash. And maybe you don't throw it away right away, because it's not something necessarily that you can just be like, all right, maxim applied, dissolved, abracadabra, done, I'm cured. It's more, maybe it just moves from the big pile to a smaller pile. And then eventually you visit it again, and then it moves from that smaller pile to maybe an even smaller pile, and then eventually into the trash, right? So it's like taking one thing and just applying that maxim and repeating that maxim to the thoughts that are already swirling around in your brain, and see if that just makes it just a little bit easier, a little bit easier, a little bit easier for you to your point, Sierra, to then see one thing that you like about yourself. Even if it's something really small. I know even to some people, I can imagine if they say, oh, I look in the mirror and there's nothing that I like. There's not one thing. And so you go, well, okay, what about your eyebrows? Are your eyebrows pretty on point? Do those look good? All right, cool. Stick with that. It can be something very, very small. I have really long eyelashes. Oh, good for you. All right, go girl. You know, whatever it might be, it doesn't have to be, I like everything I see.
It doesn't have to be physical. You could be like,
Yeah.
I'm smart.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, oh,
Yeah.
you know, this.
Yeah,
Anything.
that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent. So this was great. So we'd encourage you to find your citadel. Take a step in the direction, because that's really what this is all about. It's about taking steps, baby steps sometimes. I mean, babies learn to walk, they fall down, and get back up. Same thing we're doing in life. It's just a different type of standing up, falling down, standing up, falling down. It's learning those life lessons so that we can become more collaborative as human beings. And the only way to do that really is when you're able to put your emotions aside while other people are talking to you. You don't have to interject with all your thoughts. You can accept them for who they are, where they're at, no matter what they're saying. That's what going to the citadel allows you to do, to be more effective with, to be a more collaborative, more effective human being, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're into leadership, it'll help you become a more inspiring leader, or just a better leader overall. Because ultimately what we're trying to do here is bring out the best in you and bring out the best in your team. We are Painted Porch Strategies. My name is Rob. This right here is Amy. Right over there is Sierra. For all of us and for Bobby Brown, remember, it is your prerogative to think, do, and act as you want, no one else's. You are in control of that. Any final words, ladies?
I just want to start singing. It's my prerogative.
Exactly right, but don't do that, because YouTube will get mad and they'll take this video down. So we don't want that to happen.
We don't want that. We don't want that.
So we'd love for you guys to check us out.
When you were first talking about Bobby Brown, I wasn't sure if you were talking about the makeup artist or the hip hop artist. And then I realized it's Rob. So you're probably talking about Bobby Brown, the rap artist.
Exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
It's my prerogative. It's our prerogative.
The way that I want to live.
We'd love for you to comment. Where's your citadel? Let us know. Comment below and subscribe if you're new to us, and watch these videos. Go back to the start if you want to follow along on all our Stoic lessons. And if you want to work together too, we do trainings. We have all kinds of awesome tools for you. We will work with you as an individual. We have one-on-one coaching. We also do big business programs as well. So your whole team can be experts at mindfulness, communication, and teamwork. That's what we do here in Painted Porch Strategies in the Stoic fashion. Until next week, week number 43. What is week number 43? What are we doing next week? Challenge your anxious thoughts. So you see how this builds in your citadel, your anxious thoughts. We will challenge them next week. We hope to see you then. Again, for Sierra, for Amy, for Bobby Brown, I'm Rob. See you next week.